Holy hell, it's been a few months since WandaVision ended, and I'm just making this video now. I don't really have an excuse for that. I've been thinking about this show a lot recently with a bunch of the Marvel stuff coming out and a bunch of people talking about it, so I really wanted to make this, get my thoughts out the window. Now, before I get into the whole theory slash expectation debate, I'll say this. I did really like the show. I was seriously let down by the finale, but as a whole, I did really enjoy the show. It was just so weird that this very different conceptual show ended with a generic CGI battle at the end. Like, I think that this show should have had a different type of finale. I don't know what it should have been, but a big CGI battle wasn't it. Like, there could have been a fight of some sort, but not on that scale. I think if they handled the finale better, it might have been up there with some of the Marvel greats, but they really dropped the ball hard. Also, I don't like how they handled Director Hayward, who was the leader of S.W.O.R.D., because throughout the show, everything he did was reasonable and made sense. Like, he was one of the antagonists technically, but he wasn't really a bad guy. And then in the finale, they just turned him into a generic cartoony villain, and it just did not make sense to me at all. Now, the stuff I liked. It finally dove deeper into two characters that have been around for a long time, but haven't really gotten as much development as the others. Not only a dive into the characters, but also a little bit into the powers of Wanda and the world of magic in the MCU. Also, it had a nice change of pace considering that this was the MCU's first show and it had a weekly release, and I can definitely say that I was itching after every episode on Wednesday, waiting a whole nother week for the next episode to come out. Now, to be honest, me personally, I didn't have really expectations for this show because I had no clue what the fuck this show was going to be about from watching the trailers. If you talk to anybody who was watching the trailers at that time, nobody had a single clue on what this was going to be about. So I didn't really have expectations for this, but it was cool to see Marvel doing something completely different with their shows, and I was down with it. But now let's get into the theory stuff. Firstly, it is completely natural for fans of anything to theorize about what's going to happen next in their respective fandom. It's just a normal thing that fans want to talk about what's happening in their favorite shows, but these are a weekly release basis, meaning that people are going to theorize. That's just how it works when you space things out. You give people downtime, they're going to theorize. It is normal. WandaVision already had high expectations for other people, not from me, considering that this was the first Marvel project in Phase 4. Now, it would be one thing just to have those normal expectations because of the long wait between this and Far From Home, which was 2 years, by the way. But when Paul Bettany, one of the main characters in the show, decides to add fuel to the flames, saying, "There's a huge cameo from an actor I've always wanted to work with," then yeah, the expectations after him saying that are obviously going to be really high. Plus, there's a ton of people defending the theory bait situation, saying that
some essentially random theories based on very little details in the show.
That is complete bullshit. Like, come on, this is Marvel we're talking about, and no one knows how to build hype for a movie or for a show like Marvel. Then he says, those minor details were
so hyped up online that we kind of fooled ourselves into believing those details were going to turn into major plot points that were never really hinted at.
What are you talking about? If I say tomorrow that I'm going to give you $100, it is completely fair and completely reasonable to expect me to have the expectation for me to give you $100. So, if you show me Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, it is completely fair and reasonable to expect that other characters from that universe are going to appear, or at least that the X-Men's Quicksilver would actually be the X-Men Quicksilver. And mind you, this happened in episode 5 and 6, and it was after this, when Paul Bettany was talking about the big cameo that he always wanted to work with. So if they just gave us a supposed X-Men character, it would make every other theory more believable, thus creating a snowball effect to where even the most ridiculous theories become somewhat plausible. So with that being said, I don't think it was entirely the audience's fault for the theory craze, considering all the leading on the showrunners did and what Paul Bettany did. But I will give this show a 6.7 out of 10. Now, don't compare this to any of my other rankings for other movies and other shows, because when it comes to Marvel movies and shows, they have a completely different system on how they're ranked, so comparing them to other projects that are not in the Marvel universe just would not make sense and would skewer it. So Marvel movies and shows have their own system. Like, subscribe, comment, another video soon, and I'll see you in the next one.